People are all inside, so they're quite good. You've got the trouble, you've got all the people walking around, kids and stuff like that. There's not much you can really do. So are you? Still here? Yeah.
It was a moving tribute, hundreds of relatives and friends defying the bitter cold and rain to honour those killed at the coalface. In the Hunter Valley alone, 1,537 men and boys have died while working in the most hazardous occupation in the country. Their names have been immortalised on the Jim Comerford Memorial Wall in Cessnock by the United Mineworkers Federation.
The important part of today is to make sure that the people that we have lost over the last decade and the last century are remembered, and their families get a chance to recognise that.
Dozens of wreaths were laid at the wall, a sad reminder of the risks associated with a career in coal mining. Since the wall was unveiled last year, 4 more men were killed during the Gretley mine disaster. The union hopes a judicial inquiry into the deaths, coupled with a recent government review into mine safety, will help save lives in the future.
It's been long and it's enduring for the families, but if what comes out of that it stops any more fatalities, well, it starts to serve its purpose.
Simone Cobb, NBN News.
"69-year-old Jack Boslam has good reason to smile. Today he's been given the all clear after a melanoma was removed from his back 2 months ago.
Well, I was at a bath one day and the wife had a look at me back and she said, "What's that on it?" Now, I couldn't see it. It was in a position where I couldn't see it or couldn't feel it. I couldn't reach it.
After a biopsy, Jack underwent a new surgical procedure which involved tracking his lymph nodes to find out if the disease had spread.
And he had a test called a lymphoscintigraphy that gives a surgeon a map of the drainage pathways and then tells the surgeon where to dissect and where to go after these lymph nodes.
Dr Doug Renken, a leading American expert in the field, has been invited to Australia by the Hunter Melanoma Foundation. He says in the past, doctors relying solely on clinical experience and prediction could end up doing the wrong type of surgery in the wrong area.
But with the new techniques of lymphatic mapping, you can pretty much pinpoint where the disease will be if it has spread.
Every year, 300 new cases of melanoma are detected. Latest research shows prevention and education programs are starting to have results, with mortality and incidence rates among women falling.
Australia started these programs 30 years ago, and it's nice also that they have been able to document an effect of the programs. And I think now a lot of other countries can copy that to try to catch up.
We come up just for day trips, just for kids, just swimming. I came up with a couple of went from the camp, not camp, stayed in the hotel up here. Big two, we were riding.
The Solo Waste Recovery Centre was quiet today, but residents of nearby housing estates say it was a sleepless weekend, with contractors testing their machinery throughout the night. The group overseeing the council recycling program is assuring the community it won't happen again.
Now, there isn't any cause for concern by the residents. I do understand that the plant was running outside of its development application hours, but once we became aware of that, we ceased that operation.
Lake Macquarie Council says that Solo Waste will only operate the crushing machine from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and that the late night activities were a misunderstanding.
It's been a teething problem. They're commissioning the plant, they're familiarising themselves with the equipment, they're doing a trial run.
Council representatives were on site conducting last-minute checks. They've been assured by the contractors that all regulations will be met. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News. In the converted garage of her Gateshead West home, Christy Brady belts out the songs that are winning trophies in talent quests throughout the region. Encouraged by a singing teacher, the 12-year-old entered her first competition 12 months ago. Now her studio is filling with the results of hours of hard work. Besides talent and loads of confidence, Christy has the positive outlook to help her along the tough road to stardom.
When I listen to people like Celine Dion, everybody wishes that they were them, but I know that I've got the chance to be.
Her schedule is hectic.
Several part-time jobs pay for her equipment, and as the eldest of 6 children, there's sisterly duties to juggle with homework and singing practice. She's also organising a disco for young people to raise money for local charities. And while there are years of school left for the Gateshead High student, on stage she's the professional entertainer. A transformation Christy can't quite explain.
I don't know, it's just that I enjoy talent quests more than Christmas and my birthday, so it must be something.
And for other young people who are chasing their dreams, a few words of advice.
Well, if it keeps you off the street, and go for it.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
Residents and businesses in regional New South Wales should start preparing for changes to their telephone numbers. On August 18, 2 million numbers will move to 8 digits with a 2-digit area code as part of Austel's Australia-wide numbering plan. Under the plan, telephone and fax numbers will all move to the 02 area code, and the last 2 digits of the old area code will become the start of the local number. For example, if your current number reads 049292 under the new system the O is dropped and the 49 becomes part of the local number. For STD calls, just add 02. Emergency 000, free call 13 and mobile numbers will not be affected.
The open fire in this John Parade house had burnt to coals when its occupants retired. But at around 2:30 this morning, Dale Levitsky was awoken by the sound of exploding power cables.
And I've come out and had a look in the roof, and she was sort of glowing a little bit orange. And I walked out the front and I could just see smoke just billowing out of the roof and pouring down the street.
A next-door neighbour had already called the fire brigade. On arrival, the roof and ceiling were badly damaged, but firefighters stopped the blaze from spreading to the remainder of the house. The occupants had lit an open fire every night for the last few weeks, and it's believed that a build-up of soot in the chimney ignited.
Basically, it's just built up over time, I think, and it was just a time bomb.
The fire brigade has issued a warning to people using fireplaces or slow combustion stoves.
And it's advisable before they do this to have the whole area serviced, the fireplace, the appliance itself, and especially the chimney.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
The old cordial factory was established by A.F. Moore, Frank's father, and moved to Derby Street from Maitland in the 1860s. Frank began his career in the family business straight from high school, eventually taking control in the 1920s. Today, he took some time to reflect upon his life.
I've had a happy life over those years.
But life has not always been so smooth for Frank. The business suffered huge losses in the Great Depression. Fortunately, when World War II broke out, Moores were awarded a contract to supply cordial to the American troops. Big business eventually got the better of them. In the 1950s, they were bought out by soft drink giant Coca-Cola. Frank, who's never had a drop of alcohol in his life, reveals his secret to longevity is clean living and, of course, a little sweetness.
Sugar didn't kill me. I don't know what affects the other people, but I've had tons and tons of sugar. That's my one weakness, is sugar. Sweet.
Letters of congratulations continue to pour in, including messages from the Queen, the Prime Minister and the Governor-General.
The Australian Water Skiing Association claims former Bicentenary Events Corporation chief Renato Rispoli verbally offered around $50,000 to bring the World Championships to Newcastle. With that knowledge, the Skiing Association went to Geneva and secured the event. But after a shake-up of the BEC, Mr Rispoli is no longer controlling financial matters and the verbal agreement is no more.
And unfortunately, the Bicentenary Corporation feels that a verbal agreement in a discussion which wasn't backed up by written documentation is not binding.
The skiing event on Newcastle Harbour is set down for 2 weekends in October. Already hotel rooms have been booked by competitors. The Australian Skiing Association says it's still committed to the event, but disappointed by the BEC.
It puts us under a lot of pressure, and unfortunately, I guess the Bicentenary Corporation can wash their hands at it and sit in the background, and our event, if it takes place in Newcastle, will not be of the quality it could have been.
The Bicentennial Events Corporation would not comment about the matter on camera today, but issued a statement claiming that at no time had a contribution of $50,000 been offered and that a formal proposal for financial support had never been received. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Newcastle City Council came under attack today when the Regional Chamber of Commerce expressed its concern over the council's proposed rate increases.
The Chamber is very concerned, obviously, about the draft budget for the Newcastle City Council, which at this stage is proposing a rate increase of in excess of 9%, some 3 times above what is agreed by the state government.
With the city's main street looking far from inviting, the Chamber highlighted the urgency for council to commit to a capital works program if Newcastle is to become attractive to potential investors. Urging the council to take a very close look at its own operations, the Chamber expressed concern that revenue may be channelled into council's administration, to the detriment of capital works and services.
When we believe that the council needs to show strong leadership, particularly in view of the recent announcements by BHP and the importance of maintaining the assets and maintaining the physical amenity of the City of Newcastle.
Council admits that the bottom line on rate charges will be higher, but insists that the increase will be offset by a drop in waste charges. Antonia Kidman, NBN News.
The Butcher Boys suffered their biggest loss of the season last weekend and the initial signs weren't good today. The Goannas led 20-6, but in a match of two halves, Central finished powerfully to overhaul the deficit. It's only the second time this year the Cars have sung the tunes of victory. Lake still has a 6-point buffer on the field. Curry has jumped into outright second, while Central still has a lot of ground to catch up. And only 3 matches in local soccer, wins for Toronto and Edgeworth. There was 1 draw between Cessnock and Hamilton.
Visitors to the Wetlands Centre will soon be able to enjoy a stroll along the magnificent new Whispering Pines Trail. The trail was forged by 10 Green Corps volunteers, aged between 17 and 20. The Green Corps is a federal government initiative designed to provide training and employment in activities specifically related to the environment. Group members had only positive things to say about their assignment, in spite of the recent weather making for some very tough working conditions.
Conditions have been quite difficult at times, very boggy. We've had plenty of rain.
The trail leads to Reed Swamp, an area which offers some unique birdwatching opportunities. And the fun-starved Wetlands Centre is only too thrilled to have the workers on board.
We can't afford to pay people to do these projects for us. So when groups like Green Corps come along and offer their services, it's really important to our centre.
It seems they weren't the only ones to profit.
Good sort of landscaping skills that they've acquired.
Antonia Kidman, NBN News. The recent spate of violent attacks within the schoolyard has prompted one Newcastle high school to take the initiative and introduce a program designed to promote non-violent behaviour within the school.
We're trying to work this from a proactive stance, that we're arming these children that are part of this program with strategies so that they feel more confident themselves.
The school have decided that the best way to get through to the students is through the students themselves.
Peer mediation process, which is where a year 10 or 11 student with a partner takes these children into the library and they are able to assess what the problem is and come up with some strategies of their own.
Students today showed how role-playing various schoolyard scenarios can assist others cope with bullying and discriminatory behaviour. The school also capitalised on the skills of a visiting expert who captivated a Year 8 audience with a presentation of tactics designed to help them deal with their problems. By introducing this program, Belmont High School is ahead of its Sydney counterparts, where schoolyard violence is quickly becoming a major problem.
As far as violence is concerned, we don't have a lot of incidences of physical violence. Ours is more verbal aggression.
Antonia Kidman, NBN News.
Hunter was back on familiar turf this afternoon, the side given a light run by Graham Murray after returning from Europe only last night. The team has just 3 days to recover from jet lag in the World Club Challenge, hosting Canberra on Friday. Murray has named a full-strength team, opting for Brett Camorley at halfback. Tri-Series hero Noel Goldthorpe starts from the bench.
You know, I promised him if he was playing the football he'd be in the team, and that's what he's doing. He's playing the football and he's in the team. It's unfortunate for Noel.
Well, I've waited my time, like back at the Knights last year and the year before, and half of this year I've finally got my chance. I'm not going to sort of let it go again.
Hunter returned from Europe with 3 from 3, although Murray adds,
Without knocking them too much, we did find it fairly easy.
the challenge now is getting back into the form that helped them upset Brisbane in the Telstra Cup.
I think it's better playing Canberra. I think the boys will lift more and, probably be on the game a lot better than, say, playing the lower sides. But, it's every game's hard, and I think this one's just going to be a bit harder.
Hunter lost its round 5 match against the Raiders, and despite 5 from 5 at Topper Stadium, the locals will start underdogs again.
I think they're probably a bit better now than they were then, and I think we are too.
Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
Dave Sands grew up in the Newcastle beachside suburb of Stockton. In 1952, he was top of the boxing world as the Empire middleweight champion. Tragically, his career was cut short at the age of 26 in this truck accident the same year at Dungog. Sands is the subject of a proposed documentary titled The Fighting Sands. Parts are being filmed in Newcastle, featuring Chad Ritchie, Sands' grandson, who's put on the gloves to continue a long family tradition.
He could have probably been better if he had won the world title, but he didn't ever get the chance to do it.
How much?
I want to try and win the world title, do something that my pop never got a chance to do.
The 16-year-old is trained by Newcastle's Wal Bentley in the trainer's backyard gymnasium. Bentley retired from training after the death of another up-and-coming Newcastle boxer, Lance Hobson. Hobson died in 1996 during a bout in Melbourne. Bentley believes Chad's desire to follow in his grandfather's footsteps only adds to his ambition.
He idolises his grandfather, his papa, as he calls him, and that's, that's the thing. He wants to get as much as he can out of boxing.
Blake Doyle, NBN News. Led by Phil Kearns, the black sheep of rugby ran onto Topper Stadium promising an open exhibition. But that wasn't to come. The game bogged down by a string of penalties against the French, Christian Warner putting the Barbarians ahead after 3 minutes. France opened its account 9 minutes in with a smart tap and try to David Dontiac. Tempers flared just before half-time. The Barbarians at one stage enjoying a 15-2 penalty advantage. With both sides letting off steam, the game opened up, Mitch Hardy crashing over for the Barbarians in the 45th minute. After a French try, the game came down to a test of kicking accuracy, Barbarian replacement Manuel Edmonds slotting a 30-metre penalty for a home side win. Meanwhile, Central North stamped its authority as country rugby champions, downing Newcastle in a fast open affair in the curtain raiser. Centre Sam Powell crossing for the Red and Whites first. Explosive winger David Banovich starred on the outside, stretching Central North's lead midway through the second half. Newcastle kept in touch after a quick tap restart from Steve Merrick paid dividends. But Banovich's second try sealed it for Central North, who ran out 22-11 winners. The win ruined Steve Merrick's chances of a fairy tale finish to an illustrious representative career, the former Wallaby half calling it quits to rep football. Blake Doyle, NBN News.